certainly every indication to believe that real estate's going lower. So again, when you factor all these things together and then add in a governmental crisis, the rest of the globe walking away from the dollar, sure seems like we're getting close to the break point.
The land of Arcadia.
Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you on Saturday, August 4th, 2018 for Arcadia's weekly market wrap-up. And we're live today in the Collective Art Studio, downtown Denver at 2041 Lawrence. So feel free to come by and say hello. Can talk about the markets and some of the fascinating things that are happening. I know it's tricky when a lot of the price action that myself and many of the others in the precious metals community have talked about hasn't occurred, but geez, when you think about the things happening beneath the surface that would necessarily force that type of ultimate outcome where we have higher precious metals and crypto pricing, and really a correction in the stock, bond, and real estate bubbles, sure seems like it's coming, because right here, as I posted on Arcadia earlier this week, a really stunning interview with Kevin Shipp, a former CIA official, where, again, this is an interview where he shares his opinion. But I'll read a quote. Again, in the post, you can see a little bit about his background here. So it certainly seems like he has the credentials. Also, a lot of what he says matches what I've been hearing, and it was interesting. He mentions how everything can be verified on these Clinton email servers. So again, I wasn't in the room when Clinton's did or didn't do the alleged things, but I'm sharing I do believe this to be in some form accurate. And with that said, let's dig into one of the quotes that he had about Hillary Clinton. She formed basically the equivalent of an international super PAC to funnel money through the Uranium One deal, over $140 million, and into the Clinton Foundation. She did that because these donations went to secret offshore bank accounts. So her secret server in this whole deal with the Clinton Foundation essentially was set up to conceal all of this, especially from Congress. There were $2 billion that went into her presidential campaign over 4 years through Uranium One, and Uranium One was a front company for her to launder money globally, so it wouldn't be under U.S. law. Again, by all means, go do your own research and see what you come back with, but to the degree that a lot of folks that I respect are reporting similar things, I'm actually looking into getting access to the servers. I don't know if that's possible yet, but fascinating stuff happening. Shocking that, again, the reason it's relevant is because if the financial system is already on the brink, and then we find out that the folks that have been running government, which in essence is become the same as the banking system, I think we've always known the politicians steal cash off of deals here and there, but some of the stuff that I continue to hear is coming out that we saw the beginning of being released last year is so stunning and shocking and beyond what I think people might be ready to handle, that, geez, if that's happening and we're finding out that essentially when we grew up thinking of the Cold War, watching Rocky IV and visualizing Russia as the boogeyman, at least if you're here in America, and now that continues to emerge evidence and analysts. Yeah, we got the party bus going outside today. That really the Clintons were selling the nation's nuclear material to the Russians. I mean, that's sure would be a stunning one to me. Again, I posted his interview here, so you can take a look at that for yourself. Well worth your time watching, in my opinion. Because when you combine that with the other news that happened this week, the Fed did have another meeting, left the rate unchanged, although really the key mainstream takeaway is that language was changed. Instead of strong rate, committee says economic activity has been rising at a strong rate as opposed to solid growth the month before. Now, if that sounds like semantics, I will agree with you, but to the degree that that's the way the coverage of this system works and people react to it. Takeaway here being that if the economy is strong, the Fed going to continue raising rates, which, as I've said several times before, whether in these videos or in articles, that simplest way of thinking about it, the more rates go up, the sooner the bubbles are to pop, and the more likely that is to happen. Was interesting this week. We saw the rate on the 10-year get briefly above 3%. Came back in, looks like it's 2.95% over the weekend. Again, what I wonder about, find interesting, think is worth considering, is that we've finally seen at least some of the stock markets slow down a little bit, but certainly the real estate market slow down as rates are just hitting 3%. And as I've written and covered in previous videos, Russia sold their treasuries over the past 2 months. The Fed supposedly backing away from the auction. So, and at the same time raising rates. So every indication that interest rates are going to go higher. And if the real estate market is already struggling and we're barely at 3%, what is going to happen when it goes over that? And if you'd like to have some guidance perhaps, or at least a starting point, here's Investment Research Dynamics. That's my good friend Dave Kranzler. If you go to his site, The Trading Action in Gold, we recorded a great, I thought it was great, hopefully you'll enjoy it, interview, but Dave's really got a lot of insight into the gold market, also discussed real estate, which he's actively shorting. I am about ready to pull the trigger on establishing some short positions in some of the home builders, or perhaps some real estate proxies, if you want to call them. As I put that on, I will certainly report back and let you know what I did. Because, and certainly a great blog here, Wash, Rinse, Repeat, Big Short Mortgages Are Back. I do think that's a great metaphor. Here's another one Dave had written, Adios Housing Bubble. And perhaps I'll let you dig into this on your own time if you'd like, but a key takeaway, and the home builders have a long way to fall still. So I think there is still plenty of time, and certainly every indication to believe that real estate's going lower. So if you're looking for a trading idea outside of just sitting there with cryptos and silver and gold, here's one that may actually begin moving sooner than later. So again, when you factor all these things together and then add in a governmental crisis, the rest of the globe walking away from the dollar, that makes me excited about the possibility of getting cryptos while they're getting pounded again. As always, I continue to believe that sure, 95, 98, 99% of the cryptos will be worthless, just like many internet stocks were ultimately not valid business ideas. Yet for the ones that do capture a very valid functional role and fill that need in the market, which I believe there are some, in particular, again, this is not legalized investment advice, but I'm a big Litecoin fan, also Veritasium and Onizigo. I think are my three biggest holdings, in particular Litecoin, because whether it's Litecoin or Bitcoin, to me, the whole original premise of the cryptos was in creating something that could serve where the dollar has failed. And while there are several that are competing, and to the degree several may well come out far ahead, again, we don't have just the dollar. We do have some form of competition in global currencies, and there are different asset classes, or whether you want to think about gold and silver as money or not, certainly some people do. And I think competition, certainly from the Austrian free market perspective, is always a good thing. I think that will be a good thing with the cryptos. So again, a coder I am not, but from all the reading and listening that I do about the crypto sector, I do like Litecoin. And again, the way I think of it is that, if you have a dollar where 98, 99% of it, the value has been lost via printing since the Fed was invented, and you're only really left with 1% of what you actually would be receiving, again, if you just have something that can't be printed and expanded at will and then funneled off into banks and governments and dark pools that we never hear about again, to me, there's incredible value in that. And given that, at least from my perspective, I see the signs of, it's been easy to see the signs of the dollar demise for a while, but sure, it seems like we're getting close to the break point. So, similar opinion on the precious metals. Silver, it costs about $15 to get it out of the ground. So if you buy silver at 15 and a half, you have the advantage of a great natural floor, because if silver goes to $10 and it costs $15 to get it out of the ground, okay, this is a generalized statement, but the incentive for people to spend all their time digging up metal to lose money means that the supply gradually will go lower, because there will be less incentive to do that, which again favors a rise in price of the supply and demand fundamentals. When that will all occur, and we see a move higher, I still think there's a good chance in 2018. Whether it's longer than that or not, again, that's why I point out that you have a floor. So there's a limit to how much lower it can go, with a whole host of reasons of why it will likely go extremely higher in the future. I would say short to medium term. I don't think this is 10 or 20 years off. Again, if you want to hear any of those specific reasons, go to arcadiaeconomics.com. I've written about 4 million articles about that. Or you can also Google Miles Franklin and Chris Marcus, where I write for as well, and just try and point out the reasons why you may want to stick with that trade, why I've stuck with that trade. I know it's a challenging environment when you do something that seemingly makes sense and watch the result not come back in the way you would expect. Yet, again, that's why I love the metaphor of looking back to 2008, as captured so brilliantly in The Big Short, where sometimes these things just happen when they do, and it requires a little patience. I certainly think that's the situation here. But if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And if you can hit that thumbs up button, that would certainly be much appreciated, so we can help folks know what is going on. With that said, again, thanks as always for watching, and I will see you again next week.
The land of